Stay on the beach, the place to be. All the tips and ways to rank the first. Tips and ways to rank the first.
Thank you.
Good.
Good. Thank you, everyone. First time that I like to swim. It's the first time that I'm able to swim like half an hour before my presentation in the sea. So, 12 puntos, España. Yeah. So, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm going to be talking today about Google Trends for SEOs. I'm going to talk a little bit before about my journey at Google, and then I'll go into some of the things that you should look out for when analyzing data on Google Trends. And last, I'm going to talk a little bit about a few things that you can do specifically for SEO using Google Trends. So, first of all, yes, okay. I joined Google 11 years ago, long time. I joined the Google Analytics team, and my background is statistics, so I joined Google Analytics to help people understand and use data more effectively. And so either by helping with data analysis tips or data visualization and everything related to it. When I was in the Google Analytics team, one of the things that we So one of the things that we did was we built a tool called Data Studio. I'm not gonna call it by the new name. I refuse to call it. I love the old name. I think it's better, but just for the record, Looker Studio. And basically, it really helped. I think it's an amazing tool to help people visualize data, create dashboards that it helps amplifying the data into other places in the organization. So I think that's a great tool and really good for data visualization. A few years, when I was after 5 years that I joined Google, I decided to change. I got tired of Google Analytics. I think I'm not alone. So basically I told them that it's either pie charts or me, and they chose the pie charts, so I left. I went to Search Console. We don't have pie charts, which is great. I think it's much better, much faster, much more interesting search. And so I've been doing at Search, my job is divided into two parts. One is product work. So I work with our engineers on feedback that we get from the community, and I've been leading some of the features that we create on Search Console. And my mission, let's call it, is to make data available and useful at scale. So I do a lot of the features related to releasing more data to the community, because I know that that's the most important thing, is to release as much data as we can. So some of the things that I led is the URL inspection API. I think it's a great tool. We see a lot of usage. And the bulk data exports, the BigQuery export, which is amazing. I think it's the best feature. I love it. And I hope all of you are using. If not, you should be using. And last year, more or less, there were some changes and there was an opportunity. I always wanted to work with Google Trends. I think Google Trends is an amazing tool and it's super insightful. So I'm going to talk about Google Trends. So now I'm kind of splitting my job between Search Console and Google Trends. I think in general, they're just like different ways of looking at the data, right? So Search Console, you verify ownership of a website. We give you all the data about that website. Google Trends, we give aggregate data about everything so that you can understand what's going on in the market, and you can basically benchmark your data, your Search Console data using Google Trends. So let's talk a little bit about the data. And so there is like our official thing is Google Trends provides a sample of aggregated, anonymized, and categorized Google and YouTube searches. I love every single word in this explanation. So it's obviously like Google search, there is a lot of data. There is a lot of people searching for things on search, on YouTube. We cannot look at everything all the time, right? And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, but we have data on a minute by minute basis. So it's a lot of data on Google Trends. We have to look at a statistically significant sample of the data, so just a portion of the data. Of course, we have control groups. We try to make sure that this sample represents reality, and it does. Like we do a pretty thorough job with making sure that the data represents what people are searching for. And then we clean up for privacy reasons. We have a threshold where if there are too few searches on something, we won't show on Google Trends. We clean up things like repeated searches and a lot of other stuff. And what we do, so the term is that it's a normalized index, Google Trends. And what it means is that, let's say you give us like a few queries that you want data for in a specific country and for a specific time range, okay? And what we do, we look at all the data. We look at the highest point. So let's say the day that this term was the highest throughout the date period, the date range, and we assign 100 to this data point. And then all of the other data points, we calculate based on this 100. So everything becomes from 0 to 100, how much search interest a specific query had on a specific day. Okay, so that's what we do. Again, it's a normalized index, and it represents search interest. So we don't provide, as I'm sure all of you know, we don't provide absolute numbers about how many people search for a specific query on a specific day. But you can do a lot with what we give. And here, there are three main things that I believe that make Google Trends like absolutely insightful and actionable. Is that first, it's the scale, right? So we provide data on billions and billions of searches every minute. So every single minute, we provide data on this, like everyone that is searching on Google and YouTube. So the scale makes it very significant, right? Because it's so big that you can understand the trends. It's fresh, so the data that we provide in Google Trends is like 5 minutes ago. Like you can know what people are, well, I don't remember, it's 5 or 10 or something like that, but it's like minutes ago. You can know what people are searching in the entire planet on search, on Google search, on YouTube. So it's big, it's fresh, and it's honest in that, you know, it's what people are searching. Like they're searching for answers to their questions. So that's what we provide. So I think those three things together make Google Trends very, very insightful. Now I want to talk about three things that you should look out for. And the first one is drops to zero. So if you see a graph like this one, where you see like lots of the line chart goes to zero all the time, you cannot use it. So that's not good. And so the reason is that we don't have enough data about this specific search that you're doing. There are two things that you can do to improve that. One is changing the term. So maybe the term that you're using is too specific. You need to go a little bit broader. And the second one is changing the futures. Maybe you're looking just at 24 hours. Maybe you're looking at a country where the data is not, there is not enough data about this subject. So you change either the futures or the search query, search term. So that's the first one. Second one, topics and search terms. Topics, maybe people also call it entities, right? So what happens when you search on Google Trends is that we provide either the exact search term, right? So in this case, alphabet, right? So if you search for alphabet on Trends, you can look at how many people search for the word alphabet, which might not be very relevant because alphabet can be pretty, like very different things. One of them is the alphabet, right? The writing thing, the alphabet with the letters. Alphabet Inc. This I heard it's an amazing company. Or you have other things, right? So, and what a topic is we cluster terms that they are on the same, well, it's a cluster, it's an entity, and we also have misspellings inside the topic. We have different languages. I think that's quite interesting. If you have a global website and you want to know all of the languages together, you can just use the topic. So topics and search terms is something that you should play with, and it's very interesting in the data set. And the third thing is you can actually use search operators inside Google Trends. So we support 3 search operators. So exact term, right, quote marks. So if you want to know, here this example is boat trip, right? So if you want to know only searches for boat trip, you can search for the exact term using quote marks. You can use for minus, right, to exclude a word, so boat minus trip. So everything that includes the word boat but do not include trip, or boat plus trip, which is like boat or trip. So this is very important when you're analyzing data, you want to know specifically. So you can play with languages, topics, you can play with search operators. I think that's very insightful. Now, let's talk a little bit about SEO. Yay, I was hoping for like, why? Okay. So, keyword research. I'm not going to explain what's keyword research. I'm sure that a lot of people here know better than I do what's keyword research. That's not something that I do on my day-to-day. But in general, it's identifying search terms that they're relevant to your target audience, and also to understand what's the volume of those search terms, right? How much volume you're getting. And I think it's interesting also to think about not just how much volume it's getting right now, but what's the trend of the volume, right? Is it rising or not? Because you want to get into new keywords when they're rising, not necessarily when they're already on top. So 2 things that I want to talk about keyword research. The first one, you can search for, let's say you're interested in a topic. I'm always interested in cheese. So you search for cheese and you go down on Google Trends, you scroll down, and there are those two tables. I think those 2 tables are very insightful. One is related topics, the other one is related queries. And what you can see here is what people search in connection with what you're looking for on Google Trends. And I think that gives a lot of ideas to expand your keywords and making sure that you are getting more keywords, or understanding what the people are searching for in connection with the keywords that are already important to you. So related topics, there are 2 things that I want to mention. One is that we have pagination. So we provide quite a lot of terms, like related terms. So that's important to know about the pagination. The second one is that there is a drop down here. It's called, you can see here, rising, and you can choose either rising or top. What? Right? So either rising or top. So rising are the terms that they're, well, going up really significantly, and top are the ones that already get a lot of traffic. So that's also, you can play with that. Again, those are the topics and those are the queries that are related. So I think that's important to know. This one is a bit less known, this trick. It's an advanced feature on Google Trends. And basically you can see it's unintuitive, but there is a reason. It's a feature, it's not a bug. So you can see that I'm searching for the exact same term multiple times, right? Espresso coffee, espresso coffee, espresso coffee. So you enter the same term multiple times. And here you'll see that there is like 3 dots. If you hover over the term, there is 3 dots. You click on the 3 dots and you see this, and then you can click on change futures. And then you're changing the future just for this term. And what I'm doing here, so the idea here is that I can look at espresso coffee for the last 20 years. We have 20 years of data. That's super cool. 20 years of data. Now, you'll see one line over the last 20 years, okay? Which is okay, you can see the overall trend. But what you can do with the advanced futures, you can create 5 lines, each one for a year. So you can look at the last 5 years and change. So here I'm looking at 2023, 2022, 2021, 2020. And then instead of seeing one line, you can do a year-over-year comparison for the specific term that you want. And then it makes it much easier to understand if the term or how the term is growing year over year. I think that's so for keyword research, I think it's interesting to look at, you know, maybe the last 3 years and you want to see like a comparison that is it's a better data visualization, I think. Content calendar. So second thing, content calendar is, I think it's really important because, well, you have a lot of stuff, you want to publish a lot of content throughout the year, right? And how do you decide what is more important or how to prioritize the different types of content that you're writing throughout the year? And the key, the important word here is what we call, really? What? No. Oh, come on, what happened? Okay, now I lost okay, content calendar. So, okay. Seasonality is a term on statistics that talks about like seasonality, right? It's self-explanatory. There are seasons in the data, and here you can see very clearly the blue line. So we're talking about breaches. So you can see that this is 5 years. So every year you have the exact same spike on the data. So there is a yearly seasonality on this data. So you have 2 spikes, right? The first one is Thanksgiving, second one is Christmas. So that's how you have monthly seasonality, so things sometimes spike only at the end of the month. You have weekly seasonality and so on. So here I'm looking at this. When you think about what content to publish throughout the year, what subject, you should look at this because, well, you want to publish the content way before because you need time to get crawled, to get indexed, to start getting served on search, ranked, so that when the spike comes, you're out there. So I think Google Trends can help you define when to write about what, right? And one last, something else, another advanced feature that I mentioned before. Again, I'm looking for breaches, and what I'm doing here, I'm changing the features by country. So now I have 2 lines, one for the United States, one for the United Kingdom, for the same keywords. And you'll notice that there is a big difference because, well, the UK doesn't have Thanksgiving. So they have only 1 spike, it's just Christmas. And in the US, you have 2 spikes, which is Thanksgiving and Christmas. And I think that if you have a global website, it's really important to know when something is, well, it trends in different times of the year. So it's really important to know when so that you can plan for different languages as well. Last thing, YouTube. YouTube is amazing. I love YouTube. There is no but. YouTube is amazing. So let's say I'm thinking about two main keywords that I want to focus on cheese sandwiches, cheese recipes, okay? So, okay, I make the search. I can see here that cheese recipes, the red one, is on top of the blue one. Cheese recipes is better. Now, you notice here that we're looking at web search. Now, the interesting thing is that when you change to YouTube, the pattern inverts. So that's really cool. And there are things that they're very different, and obviously so, right, because YouTube has a very different activity. So when you're producing content, think about it. Think about YouTube versus, like, if you're producing video, look at YouTube. If you're producing content for the web, look at web search. Last, ta-da! That's kind of a little To backward classification, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but it's interesting to. You're saying, for example, before there was. So let's take the example of Alphabet, right? Alphabet, well, it was not a company a few years ago. I don't know how many. If, like in this case, we wouldn't update backwards, hopefully, because there was no company. But with something else, with a name, for example, with a celebrity name, that celebrity was not famous. If when the celebrity becomes famous, if we look backward, I don't know. That's a good question, but in terms of, but I have to check. I can, yeah, I'll. But in terms of, yeah, in terms of how much data we have, we do like we look at a big portion, even though it's a sample of the data. We look at a significant sample, and if there is not enough data on a specific, I think you mentioned the category, right? Travel and news, and that's,
We should study
yeah.
with the API, it should be perfect to study that.
Okay. I'll remember that for the API. But yeah, it's, okay, yeah.
Next question over here. Tomorrow I'm going to talk about web performance. And
Okay.
the question is about Google Search Console.
Yay! Okay.
I'm going to talk obviously about the report in Google Search Console about core web vitals. And my question is, because I think the main report of web vitals, the one that shows your data, good pages, needs improvement pages, and poor pages, I think this report is very confusing. Do you plan to improve or change it in
The core web, the page experience, yeah.
Yeah, because it shows the date and the data.
Yeah.
It shows the data about 28 days before, so it's very, very confusing, I think.
I think it's confusing too. I don't think we're planning on anything, at least not to my knowledge. I think, I mean, in general, I think it's a good report to give you like a very high level like idea if you're doing well or if you're not doing well. But I agree that when you're doing optimization, maybe it's not the best tool, right? There are other tools at Google as well. I don't know, not page speed insights. What's the, I don't know, but yeah. Yeah, so that report, I understand your point. It's not super helpful. Also, like having just 3 categories, but on the other hand, it's not something that we think you should be like over analyzing. Like your website should be good. Like it's not that every single millisecond will make a massive difference for search, but
I think you have a lot of data in BigQuery, more fresh than the one that you show for any day. So maybe.
But on BigQuery it's just for the analytics, just for performance, right?
Yeah, but the Chrome UX report, I think you have a lot of data about core web vitals, and maybe you can show more data of any day instead of showing the.
As in like exporting to BigQuery, that's what you're saying? Like in terms of like exporting like a.
Using many.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Venga.
If I don't like the question, I throw the ball. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, it goes both ways. Sorry.
Well, I have 2 questions. I'm Clara Citeras and I work for a news media outlet. So I have one question for Google Search and Console and for Google Trends. I don't know if you are planning to include some report about top stories on Google Search Console.
Who wants top stories? Yeah. If we have any plans, we have lots of plans. Just saying, like so there is how to explain? There is So when I say we, there are many types of we, right? We, as in we, Search Console, we would love to show that data. We think it's very important, and we know that news companies, they definitely need that. Top stories is super prominent, and the data should be there. On the other hand, there are like internal stuff, and it's not that we can always show every. So we're always trying to get more top stories, featured snippets, and other stuff. Before anyone AI overviews, we would love to show everything on Search Console. Like we try our best, and hopefully one day we'll show it, but I can't promise anything.
Okay,
But,
thank
yeah.
you. And another question, I will try if you like more. Are you plan or thinking about include some tracking entities about Google Discover with Google Trends?
No. Yes.
And some more info about Discover for news media outlets, for example.
Discover on Search Console, because Discover on Search Console. Well, we have Discover on Search Console. In terms of trends, we hear a lot about like how do we benchmark, how do we know how, and I think Discover is the same. It's very unpredictable, right? It's not something that it's very different from search in that it's very hard to plan for Discover. I know that there are like all kinds of hacks and all kinds of optimization techniques that people, the SEO industry found that works with Discover, doesn't work with Discover, but you'll notice that even in our documentation, there is very little documentation about Discover because we don't share information about how to optimize for Discover. If we're planning to share more, I don't think on trends the one thing that we share maybe on Discover and that we are working to improve is the trending now report, where we show like what's trending now, and maybe that's like a way to think about Discover as well. But that's all. Yeah. Next question. Yeah. I'm starting to think that the beer is too small for.
Maybe you need to refill it. It's fine. This is also I work for IKAUE, which is a price comparison portal.
For which portal?
IKAUE.
Okay.
So may I ask you something regarding the new SERP templates which have been developed through the DMA, so the digital market sites. And
I don't know if.
you don't know this one, probably because you are not involved in the project.
What? I don't know.
But,
Let's try the question and I'll.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
right now you have like in the new SERP templates you have different kind of buttons on the top, right? So
Yeah.
typical, you have shopping, you have, and now there's like a new feature regarding to comparison portals,
Mm-hmm.
where also comparison portals are related. So, and you can see there are many results. And regarding this, maybe you have an idea why this is not implementing in the same speed in the different countries. At least in our case, we realized in Germany or in the UK, it was much faster. And in Spain, this is not happening.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like
It's not your, okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I have to try it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and may I
Yeah,
just one super fast one? So,
Yeah.
Okay, regarding to trends, exactly. You show up like the trend topics and like there are percentages how these topics are related. How do you fit this and how can you estimate this if you have to take into consideration data protection policies? So
Well,
That's
so we have,
difficult,
yeah,
right?
we have thresholds, as in like if there is a certain I'll just make up a number, okay? This
Yeah,
number
sure.
is made up. I'm disclaimer.
go for it.
Let's say 100 searches, okay? If it's below, it's below. Like we're not going to show it doesn't exist.
Okay.
So yeah. So it's just this
It's
way. we
more
have
for
thresholds.
not so long term, but short
Yeah.
term, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, Lino, no, shit.
And thanks a lot.
I don't know, Lino.
Hola Daniel, te voy a hablar en español, que sé que lo entiendes.
Hi Daniel,
Simplemente era para proponer que expliquéis mejor cómo hacéis la normalización de los datos en Google Trends. Has dicho que cogíais el volumen máximo de un día y le dabais 100. Estaría bien que lo explicarais en un artículo o algo para los que nos gusta entenderlo, podamos intentar comprenderlo.
Google Trends Tutorials is coming, Lino. It's coming.
La normalización de los datos, simplemente, ¿cómo lo podéis, cómo lo hacéis?
Data normalization.
So
How
yeah,
do you do
basically
it?
just related to that, Google Trends documentation is not amazing. Like it's lacking on a lot of levels, but in general, we just take we look at the query, okay, and we look at all of the parameters. We look at the country, we look at the date range, we look at the property, which is YouTube or Google or something. We look at this specific query, and then we divide it by all of the data, the same parameters without the query. Right, so that's one of the ways that we normalize it. And then we do that for all of the queries that you search. And then we look at the highest data point, we give 100, and then proportionally we give the grade or the mark to each of the other data points. But
Ok,
yeah.
entendido más o menos. Muchas gracias.
¿Alguien más por ahí?
Thank you very much.
Venga. Por ahí si pasáis el micro, por favor.
You can hand them the microphone, please. Thank you so much.
Hi, Daniel. One question. When would you say would be more useful for us SEOs to go to Google Trends instead of going to the Google Ads API to get the exact number of searches, for example? Exact. Well,
Google Ads
Between-
API. So I think the Google Ads API, I don't know. I don't know a lot about the data, but I think it's much less. Well, the Google Ads API, if I'm not wrong, you mean the keyword planner, right? The keyword planner. It goes. They have an API as well. The keyword planner. You can take it. Yeah.
thank you. It's where like all the other tools
Okay.
get the data for the
Yeah.
keyword searches. Yeah.
So I think those data are just for search results that have an ad, if I'm not wrong. That's for that trigger an ad, if I'm not wrong, which is not all of the searches. That data is not coming from Google Search Organic, right? So there is I don't know. I think the trends data is it's way broader than the keyword planner data. I don't advise people not to use it, okay? I never said that, and I think I've even written in blog posts that, people should use it. I think it's available, and it's a different data set, and I think it's narrower than our data set on trends. That's but again, like we don't have an API, I think that's unfortunate. It's much harder. But yeah, you should use it. Yeah. I would actually be interested in seeing a comparison between the two data sets. It would be interesting. Never seen, yeah.
Two questions very
Yeah.
quickly. Loved your presentation, by the way. So first one is whenever we do have the API or sooner, is there any chance to lift off the 5 keywords limit? Is there any plans on doing this at all?
To increase the 5?
To have more than
yeah.
5 keywords at a time.
Yeah, if one day we have an API by
Then
some
with the
chance,
API, that will
yeah.
be the plan, okay?
Yeah, no, 5 is not.
So it's
Not
5
enough.
set in stone, okay.
No, 5 is not enough, I'm saying.
It's not
5
enough,
is
yeah.
too little. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And second question, so then for this one we will wait for the API. We're all very excited about it. Second question is, are there any plans in the meantime to kind of integrate at least partially the data with Search Console, at least to say, for instance, for some of the queries that you're seeing in your profile, this is a rising trend or something like a binary label that you already have in trends to say this is rising or this is not rising.
I think that was the first thing that I said when I joined the Search Console team was like, let's bring trends into Search Console. Let's show it in the same chart as Search Analytics. But yeah, no, I don't think we have any plans right now.
Stay on the beach, the place to be.